Have you ever looked at those students who just seem to pull top grades like all the time and wondered, how do they do it while you're putting in hours and hours and still struggling? Well, the secret isn't about studying more. It's about studying smarter. We're about to dive into 5 scientific techniques that can totally change the game for you. It's a really frustrating feeling, right? You know you put in the work, but your grades just don't seem to show it. Here's the thing. It's probably not about your work ethic at all. The real answer lies in understanding how your brain is actually wired to learn and remember things. And this is the fundamental shift we're talking about. The top students, they aren't just putting in more hours. They're studying smarter. They figured out how to work with their brain's natural programming, not fight against it. So instead of just passively rereading their notes over and over, they're using these active, science-backed methods to build knowledge that's durable, strong, and easy to recall. And the best part? These are skills that literally anyone can learn. Okay, so our first technique comes from a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, Richard Feynman. The guy was a legend, known as the Great Explainer, because he could take these incredibly complex, mind-bending ideas and just make them simple. But the secret to his genius wasn't just his massive intellect. It was this powerful method he used for learning. This quote right here gets straight to the point. See, just memorizing stuff is really fragile. It shatters the second you're under pressure in an exam. But true understanding, that's when you can break a concept down to its absolute core and explain it in plain, simple language. Once you can do that, you don't just know the information, you own it. So how do you actually do this? It's a simple little 4-step loop. First, you pick your topic. Second, and this is the most important part, you try to explain it out loud in the simplest terms you can imagine. Pretend you're talking to a little kid. You will immediately notice where you start to stumble or hesitate or use complicated jargon. Bingo, those are your knowledge gaps. That's your signal to go back to your notes or textbook, fill in those gaps, and then try the explanation again. You just keep doing that until it feels smooth and effortless. All right, let's get to our second technique. This one is huge because it directly attacks the single most common and, let's be honest, the most useless study habit out there. It's time to finally break up with that endless cycle of rereading. Rereading is such a trap because it gives you this illusion of competence. Your brain sees the words on the page, it recognizes them, and you think, yep, got it. But here's the catch. Recognition is not the same as recall. The real science points to a much more powerful tool, active recall. Think of it like this. Rereading is like walking over the same faint path in the grass over and over. But active recall is like getting out a shovel and paving that path with stone. Every single time you force your brain to pull that information out of thin air, you are literally strengthening the connections, making that memory rock solid. And the difference here isn't small. We're talking about a 300% improvement. This isn't just a minor tweak. It is a total game changer. Every time you actively recall a fact, you're sending a bright, flashing signal to your brain that says, hey, this stuff matters. And your brain responds by making that memory way easier to find the next time you need it. So here's your new study loop. First, read a page or a section with 100% focus. Then, and this is key, close the book, put it away. Now, from memory, write down everything you can possibly remember. It doesn't have to be pretty or perfect. The whole point is the struggle, the effort of retrieving it. And finally, you open the book back up to see what you missed and fix your notes. This little process transforms you from a passive reader into an active learner, and it's an incredible workout for your brain. Now for technique number 3. This one is all about managing your energy. Have you ever tried to study for like 4 hours straight only to look up and realize you absorbed absolutely nothing after that first hour? Well, the problem isn't you, it's the strategy. Your brain simply was not built for marathon-focused sessions. The answer is to work with your brain's natural rhythm, and that means working in short, intense sprints. For 30 minutes, you give a single task your complete, undivided attention. I mean it. Your phone is in another room, notifications are dead, all the other tabs on your computer are closed. This isn't just about avoiding distractions, it's about creating an environment for real, deep focus. Then, after those 30 minutes, you take a 10-minute break. And this part is absolutely non-negotiable. Get up, walk around, stretch, look out the window, grab some water. But here is the critical rule. Do not touch your phone. Seriously. Scrolling through social media is not rest. It's just swapping one type of information overload for another. Real rest lets your brain actually unplug, recharge, and start to process what you just learned. And here's the really cool part. Those breaks are not wasted time, not at all. While you're resting, your brain switches into what's called a diffuse mode of thinking. It's busy working in the background, connecting what you just learned to all the other stuff you already know, forming new ideas, and cementing those memories. The break is just as important as the focus session.
All right, next up is a technique that might seem a little strange at first, but it is so powerful because it lets you piggyback on one of the most automatic things you do every single day: sleeping. Think of your sleeping brain like a super efficient night librarian. During the day, you're just throwing a messy pile of books, your short-term memories, onto the front desk. Then, when you fall asleep, that librarian gets to work, sorting through the whole pile and carefully filing away the most important books onto the permanent shelves of your long-term memory. It's this critical cleanup process that happens every single night. Now, the incredible thing is, you can actually influence what that librarian decides to keep. How? By sending a really strong signal right before the sorting process begins. When you quickly review key information right before you fall asleep, you're essentially putting a giant, glowing sticky note on those memories that tells your brain, hey, this stuff right here, this is important, keep it. And the process itself could not be simpler. About 15 minutes before you plan to go to sleep, grab a notebook. And you're going to handwrite, don't type this, the 5 to 7 most important ideas from your day in your own words. Research from Princeton actually confirmed that the physical act of writing with a pen activates more parts of your brain than typing, making the memory stronger. Read that little summary over just once, then close the book and go to sleep. That's it.
So our final technique is the most strategic one of them all. This requires a complete shift in how you see yourself. You're going to stop being a passive student who just takes in information, and you're going to become an active strategist who's trying to predict the test. This is a really important question to ask yourself. Do you study just to understand everything, or do you study to pass the exam? See, most students try to learn everything, but the top students, they focus on learning what they are most likely to be tested on. They aren't just absorbing content, they are strategically preparing to show what they know when it counts. So here's how you do it. As you're going through your material, stop being a student for a minute and start thinking like the teacher. For every single chapter title or section headline, ask yourself, if I was writing the exam, what question would I ask about this? You turn a headline like the Treaty of Versailles into a question like, what were the 5 key terms of the Treaty of Versailles? By doing this, you build your own personal bank of practice exam questions, which forces you to think about the material from the examiner's point of view. It's the ultimate preparation.
And the results of doing this are just staggering. A study from Harvard, found that students who made up their own questions performed up to 40% better than students who just reread the material. Just think about that for a second. That's often the difference between getting a B and an A+, just by changing your approach.
So let's just pull it all together really quickly. You now have 5 incredibly powerful tools in your study toolkit. You've got the Feynman technique for real understanding, active recall for building strong memories, focus cycles to manage your energy, the sleep rewrite to make your downtime productive, and the question mirror for smart strategic prep.
You know, the most important thing to take away from all this is that top students aren't just born smarter. They've just learned better strategies. And now every single one of those strategies is in your hands. Getting top grades isn't about some kind of magic or innate talent. It's a skill, and it's a skill that you can learn.
But look, just knowing this stuff isn't enough. Knowledge without action is pretty much useless. So don't wait until the week before your final exams. Just pick one of these techniques, whichever one sounds best to you, and really commit to trying it for the next week. The only question left is, which technique are you going to master first?